Hello, hello. I've got some people joining me. Okay. Here's our guest of honor. Hey, hey. How's it going? All right. We're going to be starting here in just a minute. We're going to give everybody a minute or two to get on this evening. Hey, Lorraine. So excited. We are too. I'm pumped to be doing this. I'm glad that Mr. Rick Heath let me do this. So fun. Okay. We'll give everybody just another minute to get in. Did you make it to the cottage okay, Val?
Made it to the cottage in the storm. We're on like the most northern tip here. So I'm thinking we're going to be okay. We'll find out.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for good. Wi-Fi connection is good right now, so we're good for now.
It's strong. And I disconnected all my parents' little things from it, and that helps.
Okay, good. Good. We should be fine. Okay, it is 8 o'clock. I'm going to give everybody just a couple more minutes because I do know how many people registered, and we've got a good amount of you guys on. I am so excited. While we're waiting just another minute, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Logan Heath Maloney. I actually had the pleasure of emceeing for Empower, if you got to make that virtual event. And in my little prompter notes, my dad put Heath in italics because I now am married, but he wants to make sure that I know I am still a Heath. So he italicized that for me, but I am so happy to be here with you guys. We are going to be get to do a little bit of sponsoring training, which is awesome. In terms of our why for this sponsoring training, I think that it's important to note that no matter where you fall in the career path, whether you're executive manager, director, or if you're just a brand new consultant starting out, I think it's so important to have another perspective and to just hear other consultants out who are seeing success no matter what level they're at. I think that's really important and always so helpful to hear from other people. So that's kind of why we're here. And then we are going to be spotlighting some of our own consultants who are seeing success with sponsoring and get the scoop on how they did it. So that's just kind of where we're at right now. And I know for me, hearing how they were successful is super helpful. So hopefully it will be for some more of you guys as well. We all know, or hopefully know, about the sponsoring campaign that's going on right now. Empowered, LinkedIn, Connected. Lots of pretty incentives to sponsor and grow your team, with 12 sponsors actually earning a trip. So that's fun. But there are some ladies who got after it right away. And I want to give them a shout out real quick because that is absolutely awesome. We've got Valerie Driesenga here, Lynette Sawyer, Dawn Corey, Rose Slack, Bobby McNahee, Karen Watson, Tammy Clary, Crystal Martin, and April Matheson. So little virtual clap for them. Awesome job. You guys are crushing it. And we thought, who better to kick off our consultant-led sponsoring training than one of the fabulous ladies. And with that, I'd like to introduce our 2020-2021 top 4 seller, top 3 sponsor, top 5 executive manager in personal group sponsoring, top 4 executive manager in top downline volume, Valerie Driesenga. Hello.
Hello, Logan.
What an intro. I'm so happy to have you here. You made it to the cottage. She was having some power issues at home, so there was that. But we are so happy to have you here. And to kick us off, I had a quick question. So we have been hearing a little bit about this kind of sharing naturally or sharing authentically sponsoring cycle. And we've heard a little bit about it from both you and from Sarah. So I thought maybe you could tell me a little bit about it and how you start with that, because I know it kind of starts with sharing about you as a person first before you share about the products. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that it's important that since I really use Truor like in my lifestyle, it flows naturally. that I am able to show that and show like the real parts of my life outside of Truora, so that people know if they relate to me, like, do I have things in common with her to where I could do this too? Because I think, that's naturally who we're going to attract anyway. And when you do have things, for instance, most of the people on my team, I would even go as far to say all of the people on my team have lives pretty darn similar to me. Because she's watching Cami, for instance. Cami is on my team. Our lives are very similar. We both have multiple children. Our husbands own, well, when we started, our husbands worked for someone else. Now our husbands own our own business. Just
Yeah.
our life patterns line up. And Cami would never have got to see after high school. Her and I didn't talk as much, and like social media is kind of what reignited that, right? And she wouldn't have saw my lifestyle without me showing the vulnerable parts of my life and being real about what was going on. And do I share it all? No. You see like on an Instagram story, like 2 minutes of my whole life, but
Right.
it's enough to know for people to realize I'm a human being.
I think that's so important, sharing you first. I mean, that's why we follow people on social media, right? To see the person first. And I think you're right. When they see that similarity and see that you're a real person, they have things in common with you, they start to wonder, okay, is what she's doing something that is attainable for me? So I think that's awesome. Can you give a couple examples when you say share authentically? So for someone that might be new to social media and they want to start sharing their lives, what does that look like? What might some examples be?
Okay, here's a few things that I think people are tempted to do that might have been the way it was before, but now it's just not. One of the things that people are super tempted to do is before they post anything or before they'll like share themselves in front of the camera, it's getting ready and cleaning up what's behind you, right? And then people watch you and they're like, that chick always has a clean house. She always gets ready.
Not real life.
Not real life. And then it's like an immediate, I don't relate to that. I follow a girl on social media, and one of the questions that I always have about her is like, I think she's an awesome mom and stuff, but I'm always like, are her kids always dressed that well? Do her kids, do they ever stain their clothing? Because and then I have to remember, like, this is 2 minutes of her life, but what she's failing to do is show me the realness of like what it's like to have children. Like you get them dressed and then they spit on it a couple minutes later. Like that is how it is. And I think it's so important to let people see that so that they know that you're more alike than different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, otherwise they're trying to replicate that perfect life and they're thinking, I could never possibly do that. I'm a mess. There's no way. So I think that's awesome. And it sounds like, if I'm capturing this correctly, it sounds like you share your life in hopes that you're going to build an actual genuine connection or relationship with them. And before any of the question about Truora or the products come in, that connection and relationship happens first, right?
Absolutely. Like one of the things that when Caitlin Van Rey joined our team, she's like, one of the things that really built my trust for you is that you shared things that weren't just Truora. Like I share a lot of things that I don't make it. Today I shared about toothpaste. I don't make a dime off of the toothpaste that I'm sharing, but it works for my family and it matches the clean brand that I stand behind. And it also builds people's trust. Like, oh, she's not just in this for $1 every time. Like this, she's sharing something that she genuinely likes.
Right. I think that's that salesy versus sharing piece,
Yeah.
like, just because I happen to sell Truora doesn't mean that I'm trying to make money off of you every 5 seconds. I'm sharing things that work for me and my family and that I love. So
Totally.
I think that's great. And then I wanted to ask, who is it that you're building this connection with? So I heard you talk about Cami, and I was going to ask how you met her, but then I heard high school. So you reconnected that way, but how do you find these people? Like if I'm a brand new consultant, I'm wondering, are these people that you know? Are they friends of a friend? Are these people that find you? How does that work?
Yeah. The last time that I like scanned my personally enrolled team, 80% of them were somebody that I knew they were a friend of a friend, a distant, like an acquaintance. Somehow we knew each other.
Okay.
The rest of them were people who, this is the most common of who the rest of them are. I asked a friend to host an online something.
Okay.
I shared Trora with a friend who was like, I have someone who would be really good at this. That's the rest of them. Like I always think that, you know, we sell ourselves short by when we sell to somebody, we just take it as a sale and we don't ask them, could I share this with your friends and family? And it doesn't have to be like that. Like you don't have to say, could I share this with your friends and family?
Yeah.
It would just be like, hey, are you interested in earning free product on your next order? Because it adds up really quickly. And if you have a few friends and family, I'll do all the work.
I think that's perfect. And that kind of sets up my next question, because I know for me, that's kind of where my roadblock is, because I've kind of got an interesting, I'm learning here along with you because I'm a consultant. That's where I personally struggle. I know people on a personal level. I've built a relationship with them on social media. And how do you go from building that connection or building that relationship with them to asking the question? And you kind of framed it really well there with, you know, meeting new people through them and
Yeah.
hey, could I share this with them? But how do you go from that relationship to, I think you'd be really good at this? What is it that you say?
The missing piece, like what everyone thinks that they're this like missing gold piece, is the belief in the opportunity, the belief of how great it is and how like not weirded out they're going to be if you mean it, though, like if it really would be something good for them. You know,
Yeah.
like just like you can always tell when you're being BSy, other people can tell when you're being BSy too. And when you can identify a real strength in somebody, and know that that would actually benefit them in this business, and you have the belief in them and the opportunity, it's easier to talk about. I'll give you my word for words with Allison. Allie, who just joined, she's my recruit so far.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to cancel her TLC membership because her and her husband are kind of in and out, like, are we going to stay in Michigan or are we going to move?
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't want extra expenses right now, but while they're in this like decision period. And I was like, it sounds like you need another stream of income. And Allie, you have connections in Florida, you have connections in Allendale, you have connections in Coopersville. Like you're selling yourself short here. You talk to so many people. Why don't you pick something? And this is what I said to her. It doesn't have to be Truora, but why don't you pick something? And if you do pick Truora, right now is like legit the best time to join our new kit. And I laid it out there and I was like, and then your order would be 40% off.
Right.
And she goes, I'm in, and joined right then. And that's a real strength about Allie. Like if you use those words to somebody who knows that's not their real strength, like all these different connections, that will never ignite that light in them. That's like, yeah, I can do it. Allie knew I saw something in her that's legit.
Yeah. It's not just like cold calling, reaching out to a random, hey, are you interested in the opportunity? You know, I'm being genuine. I know you. I've built this connection with you and I see this in you to where you could flourish. And you know, that extra stream of income is just a bonus. So I think that's awesome. I fall into the trap of wanting them to reach out and ask me about it, which I think is a great thing to happen, you know, to have that curiosity. But I think so many times you forget or you kind of freeze or you don't want to be the one to reach out and say, hey, you know, I see this and I think that you'd be great at it. So I think it's something that takes a little bit of practice too.
Absolutely. And you know, like me personally, my business, when someone reaches out to me about the business, they're going to be good. Like that's just kind of someone like you can count on.
Yeah.
When you reach out to someone, I feel like that's when you get those numbers where like the consultant might not be as sold. But what's different about reaching out to someone is that usually that person you reach out to is the person who truly needs it the most, that doesn't have the guts to be like, they think because you're not reaching out to them, maybe you don't see it in them. And a perfect example, and I'm hoping she watches, that she's watching, is my mother-in-law. When she was selling beauty control, she was intimidated to ask me if I would be interested. She didn't want to ask me. And I asked her. And most people in the world are not like, that's not going to be their mother-in-law, to where there's a comfort level. And if it wasn't my mother-in-law, I wouldn't have asked.
Right.
And so even though it makes you uncomfortable, I promise you, it makes you more uncomfortable than it does that person. And seeing something in somebody else is genuinely a compliment. Like, and if it's not, don't do it. Like, don't be tacky, don't be gross. But if you genuinely see something in someone and they could make an extra income, even if it's 40% for 2 months, why wouldn't you tell them?
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. And I feel like we said so many times, you just kind of not freak out, but it's good to think of it from the other lens where you're doing them a service. You know what I mean? You're complimenting them by pointing that strength out. So it's something to definitely think about. But my next question was going to be how that worked with your new consultant you sponsored in August, but you kind of just told us. So she was going to cancel her TLC subscription. Is that what you said? Okay.
Yep. And I don't know if everybody has this experience, but this has been my personal experience in this business, is that when people cancel, they feel like they need to give you an excuse. And most of the time the excuse is money.
Yeah.
And right now they can join and get the products for cheaper than if they were a TLC customer. So
Right.
like, it's a perfect rebuttal, like perfect. And then like, don't get your hopes up that they're going to say yes, but like, give them the opportunity at least.
Yeah. I think that's a big struggle. Most of the time you have these defenses up where you automatically assume that it's going to be a no. So yes, you shouldn't assume that it's a yes, but if you never give anyone the opportunity to say yes, I mean,
Yes.
what's going to happen? Nothing. So
Yes.
I like something you said earlier. You were talking about how if they reach out to you, then you know it's going to be someone good. And I think that's something to think about in itself. Am I just growing my team to grow my team, or am I being strategic about who is on my team? Because, you know, in this business, sponsoring doesn't end with a new consultant, right? We sponsor and then we teach our sponsors to sponsor, and that's how we grow the business. So
Yep.
On a personal level, I've heard you talk about on social media, you've casually invited every now and then, obviously you've had those authentic connections, and then you'll share on your story like, hey, if this is something that's interesting to you, reach out to me, ask questions. You know, I'm getting started with my new group, they're training starting soon. What does that look like for you when you talk about that training? So how are you walking them through the business to get them started? Because we can't think about sponsoring as ending when we have that new teammate, you know?
Absolutely. I have found that people who come out of a group like that, that's someone who is bold enough to say, invite me to it.
Yeah.
And so that looks different for me than somebody who I have connected with. So, I'll give you 2 different examples. Jenny Brower, she's someone who reached out to me. She's like, my sister's skin is looking good. I want to look like her and I want to make money doing it. That's legitimately how the conversation went. She's bold and she's super charismatic and easy to talk to. And so for her, I was like, tell me what kind of money you want to make and tell me what kind of launch you're comfortable with. And she's like, I'm comfortable with any type of launch that will make me the most money. I'm like, okay, we're doing an in-person launch. This is the kind of person who reaches out. She went and got everything it took for everybody to have like their own little settings, to like do a makeover. She got these little dollar store bowls. She invited all of her friends and all of her friends' moms. No joke.
Oh
And
my
all
God.
of them left as a TLC customer. Okay. That's Jenny's launch. Then there's Allie, someone who I was like, hey, before you cancel, it sounds like you need another stream of income.
Yeah.
She is like, I'm going to use the products for 2 weeks because she had never used a few of these that came in her kit. And then I want to do an in-person launch and I want you to come to my house and I want you to help me. But before I want to read about the products, she's more cautious and she like is asking for step-by-step things. But before we move forward with anything like social media, anything, they first need to hit their hot market. Like your friends and family need to know your business before you go anywhere else. So that first, it generally takes, 2-3 weeks. First, you're waiting on your kit, then you're doing your launch. That is their launch. And that's like a crucial thing. And I can tell you right now, Pam told me from the beginning, if someone doesn't do a launch, they're probably not going to do very good. And
Yeah.
at first I was like, I'm not so sure, you know, because
Yeah.
I didn't think about direct sales. She's right on. If someone doesn't launch their business some way to their hot market, to their closest people, it's usually not a good sign for them.
Okay. So when you talk about a launch, I mean, both of those people you just talked about, they did an in-person launch, but if I'm going to sponsor someone for the first time, they don't have to do an in-person launch, right?
Absolutely not. And during COVID, all of our launches were online. And so most of my team, I would go as far as 90% of my team was all like, in my most successful players on my team right now, were virtual launches, and a few of them were Zoom, but most of them were Facebook Lives.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And that virtual piece now more than ever, you know, I've seen people in this business and heard people in this business talk about how everything they did was face to face. And then, you know, when COVID hit, that all kind of changed and everything is virtual now. And I think when it comes to sponsoring, it's so important, not to forget that piece afterwards, teaching our sponsors to sponsor, but also how you said the other 20% of the people that you talk to about this business come from your sponsors or your friends and family, and ask those people to share it with them. All of that can be done virtually too. And I think a lot of the times that's missed a little bit.
Yep. Honest story, I have never had a party in person, ever. I've never done something like that. And my business is purely built off of virtual connections and friends of friends, and you know, all of that, all of my like different group connections is from things I have put myself into, not to grow my business, but to grow my brain. Mom's group, church groups, BSF, all the things. Then slowly I become friends. They become my Facebook friends, and eventually they're ordering from me. And that's just like the pattern that it works. It's a virtual connection ultimately though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important to remember. And when that happens and it's on social media and you're watching someone like Valerie do this and come out with these awards that people are sharing about, it just makes it duplicable. You know what I mean? It makes it seem real enough to where anyone could do it. If you're not a person who wants to do things in person, you don't have to, you know. I think that's kind of a really great thing about it. But I want to also know, if I were a consultant that was just starting out, or maybe I'm not a consultant just starting out, if I was a consultant who's thinking about sponsoring for the first time in a while and it's been a minute, what would you say to that person to encourage them to sponsor? What would you tell them to say?
Yeah, I think that I would first take a minute to reflect on what you believe the opportunity does for you. Like, sometimes we take things for granted without even realizing, because they just become part of our life. Okay. Like I think what I mean by that is, now True, I've only been doing it for 3 years, but in 3 years, you already make these like habits and expectations. And for me, that I have not had a month where I don't make at least $2,000 like paycheck, just extra money from Truora. I've not had a month like that in a very long time. Since I like 3 months in, I was making about that kind of money. And so it's kind of like a take for granted thing now. And one of the things that it does for me is like, I don't think twice when I get invited somewhere with my kids that costs money. I don't think twice when I spend like a little bit extra on our budget and take my kids through fast food or something like that. I just don't think about it. Right. So I take them for granted. And when I think about like what is in me that like puts this like passion, whatever, it's that really changed my life. Because outside of, I ultimately, without working at all, Nick could provide for our family. Yeah. But it would be tight. There would be no extras. Yeah. And this provides a lot of extras. It provides a lot of freedom, which is life changing to me and my kids. It provides more life enrichment for my children. And that is what I want to be as a mom, is to provide them every opportunity to be whatever they want to be. And if I'm going to share that with someone, like, most of the people on my team are either just getting married, they're young moms. That's who I'm going for. And that's where I'm going to start. Like, that's my people. Yeah. And I think it's first important to find how it's changed. Like, what are the little pieces you're taking, the friendships, someone checking in with you regularly, making money, being recognized, whatever it is for you. and then share that with people who you know could use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I could pick two things that you've said that I hope that anyone listening would do after this. And that's why I think this is so valuable. Not only getting next steps from this, but hearing other perspectives of how people do it. I think first and foremost, just like you said, your why, kind of what does it do for you that you want to share with someone else? And then that next piece that I would encourage anyone who's listening to try would be to just start sharing. Share themselves, share authentically. Not even, it doesn't have to be sharing a product. I know we talked about that and you talked about the toothpaste, but people want to see your life and what you're doing. And I think that's so important to share, just aside from the business piece. I'm going to go ahead and look in the chat. If you have any questions for Valerie or at all for anything, go ahead and put it in the chat because Valerie can see those too. I'm reading, I didn't really have a launch in COVID and I'm an in-person person. I'm having a hard time online. It can be frustrating only having mom and myself buying currently. I hope to get some Facebook spas set, still working on my possible people. And I totally relate to that. It's hard. You get in a rut when you've just got the same people there. Any advice?
Yeah. I think that if I was in that spot, I would make a list of other ways to get leads that then could lead to some type of Facebook spot or whatever. So that could be offering samples to your hot market. We have that available to us now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you got some free ones from Empower. Is that
Yes.
for everybody, right?
Yeah, I think everyone did. Everyone registered for Empower. I've gotten two.
That's a lead. Or another potential opportunity, if this is something within your means, is saying, I would love to send you free samples if you're willing to let me share with your friends and family.
That's a great one.
So you've got to find other ways, other means to an end, right? Because having a party is great, but reaching one person is awesome too. And then that one person has that's like a whole new sea of people. And that's how you need to look at one person, as like that person has friends and family. And so one person is like 12. Look at them that way. Just work on reaching one.
I think that's great advice. Work on reaching one more person and their network of people, because I get caught. I mean, I've caught myself talking to you about it and being like, listen, I've already talked to all my friends. Like, I don't know what else to do. But that friend has that one friend who has another 15 friends to share with. So yeah. I think that's so, so important. Okay. And then we have, how much time do you invest weekly on your business?
That's really hard to like numerize for me, because a lot of my, like, if you're counting my stories and stuff, those things are almost like thoughtless transaction in my life now.
Yeah.
But I almost feel funny answering this, but I'm going to tell you that like last week, I sat down 0 times for my business. It was all just part of my life. But that's not always. When my mom comes on Monday mornings, a lot of times, and I will sit down for 2 hours before I go and get groceries, and I will either prep reels so that I can batch them out and have them for whenever. And that's for Instagram. I'll reach out to people. I'll connect with my TLC who have orders coming up. I'll go to the post office and send samples. So that's like 2 hours a week, but that's not the only time I work. It's just like so throughout my day and so part of my life now that I don't count it working hours. Does that make sense?
It 100% makes sense. And I think it speaks to that, authentic sponsoring cycle that we're talking about here. So much of your work is ingrained in sharing your daily life that it doesn't really count as work hours. So I think that absolutely makes sense. So Valerie, if you are doing this virtually, then they never try the product until they order. If this is someone new, I'm assuming they're asking about.
Yep, it depends on the way that I've done it. This past week, I have 3 new customers and none of them tried product before they ordered. 2 were the Beauty Trend collection, and that they were truly ordering to support a cause and to recover their, they needed new makeup anyway. And then my last one was a skincare order, and she had never tried the products, but she knew that she needed something new for her and her daughter, and previously used Mary Kay. So she's like, now I want to support you. But that's not always how it is. My constant freebies that I offer is I will offer to send my own samples. You don't have to do that. We have our own sampling thing, and I know that they really want them used, so use the sample thing. But I still have supplies in my house to make samples, so I have sent samples that way. And so then they can get that and try it. I do not give them a ton of product. I give them enough to feel it and see how it works on their skin. And I check in with them. I send it to them and I say, when you receive it, let me know, and I'm going to give you instructions. They receive it. They let me know. I tell them exactly how to use it. I send individualized things to people based on their skincare needs. And then I check in with them 2 days later and tell them their options to buy. I don't say like, I don't let that just linger. Like, what'd you think? I say, hey, here's your options to order. And I initiate those things. And it used to feel really ballsy and in your face, but now I've realized that people actually like to know like how much it costs and what it looks like rather than having to weirdly ask. So that's always a freebie. And then my other freebie or lead that I always have is like, if you want to try my products and you're local, I'll drop off my set. Like, I'll drop off my trial set. And some people, especially in Pam's downline, use that a lot. I think I've used it like 5 times total, but every time that it's used, it generally turns into a customer.
Wow.
So I think just seeing the full size products and all is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's a lot of things that I haven't thought about before. So that's awesome. People having not tried the product before ordering. And I think another
and virtually, I didn't answer that part.
Yeah.
If I do a Facebook spa or a Facebook party, whatever you want to call them, a live demo, if it's a planned one, I generally send samples beforehand to the people who are attending the group. For my upcoming one this month, and I don't know how this is going, this will go. This is the day in between we come home from Mackinac and we leave somewhere else. So I don't really have time to send samples. I am posting the link in that group for them to get their own samples. I have no idea how that will go, but I can let you know. But generally they have tried. And then during COVID, I led people through Microderm on Zoom and sent it to them and said, meet me here at 7:00 on this time. And we went through the products together.
I think that's perfect. So virtually or not, there are ways for them to try the products before they order. And then it sounds like also some of your customers are ordering without even trying them. So
I would even say most.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I liked what you said about how after you send samples, there's no, okay, what did you think about those samples? I think that's something that we all fall into, especially now, those samples, it's so convenient. I packaged my own samples for a while too. These samples that the business put together, it's so convenient to be able to type in an address and send them, so I don't have to deal with packaging them and sending them myself. But if I'm going to be investing in those samples, especially if it's a hot lead and I'm sending them myself, you're no longer going to get a passive, hey, what did you think about these samples? I mean, these are your options. I love that, putting yourself out there, ballsy or not. I think it's so important.
It left it like awkward for the consultant too, like for me and people, everyone on my team, I'm not kidding you. They'd be like, yeah, I asked so-and-so, how'd it go? And they'd say, good. Now what do I say? Like, I don't know. So we just take that conversation right out of there.
Right. Not even an option anymore. I think that's perfect. The test drive bag works amazing. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to have to implement that too, especially, I mean, even with COVID, if they're local, drop it off at the door, contact free. That's perfect. Great info. It seriously is. Okay. If you have any last minute questions for Valerie, get them in. All that was such good information. So I feel like if you take anything from this, number one, I am going to be a little bit more ballsy. You've inspired me. I'm going to be ballsy. You're going to hear from me, and I'm going to ask not only, actually, I'm not even going to ask. We're taking it out of the vocabulary. We're not asking how the samples went anymore. I'm going to give you options to buy. That's it. sharing authentically. And then I love, love, love that you lead your sponsors through their own launch, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, because like we said, it doesn't end with you sponsoring, right? People expect to be asked. That's right. They do. They expect. And I think half the time that's what keeps people from asking. It's because you're like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. You expect me to ask and I don't want you to hear me ask, but you just got to do it, you know? I like not asking what they thought about the samples. Yeah, everybody, let's take it out of our vocabulary. We're doing it. Okay, perfect. It sounds like everybody got some great information. I know I did. I want to be you when I grow up, Val.
Aw, that's really nice. Thanks.
Okay. I hope you guys took some notes. You got lots of people saying thank you to you. And maybe Val inspired you to try something new when it comes to posting on social media, or reach out to someone you have a connection with. Or remember that if you don't have anyone to ask, that one friend has another 15 friends that you don't know. So anyway, a couple housekeeping things before I let you leave me, or really just one housekeeping thing. This month, we have added a new Why True Aura video and an opportunity brochure to the app, the Share app, and the resource library. So make sure you check those things out. Feel free to share. And you know what? That is it. I am so happy that so many of you joined us. This is being recorded and it will be posted. You've got lots of thank yous coming in. But yes, hopefully it gave you guys some courage to ask the question, and no more asking how the samples were. These are your options.
Logan, you're a great host. I think that this is like the perfect thing for Trora. So Rick, if you're watching, keep Logan.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited. And if you're in here and you're not registered for next week, I think a couple people thought that like, oh, I could register for either or. Guys, keep registering for all the things. And hopefully we can keep these trainings going and hear from some more people, because everybody has a different approach. And I think it's so important for us to hear. So, oh, you guys are so sweet. Yes, Rick is watching. Oh,
hi, Rick. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Rick. And Noelle's watching too. Hi, Noelle.
I saw her yelling at you.
Yes, she's yelling at me. I love it. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. And we will see you guys next week, next Wednesday. Bye.
Peace and love.